If you liked the video, feel free to subscribe. It would really help the channel, and we have battle reports, boarding actions, and list videos every week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. Tau Empire Retaliation Cadre Overview. This is the first and soon to be many of the Tau Empire videos. I want to start simple with the Retaliation Cadre Detachment Overview. I will go over the Detachment Rule, Enhancements, and Stratagems, and discuss how we can use them in the game. I also included a list of some of the better units for a Retaliation Cadre list. We will save the deep dive into these units for some later videos. Finally, I'll show you the list I'm currently running as we retool our Tau collection with a new paint job, while adding in a bunch of new models to the collection. Now let's move on to the overview. Let's go over the Tau Army rule first. If your army faction is the Tau Empire, then in your shooting phase, units from your army can work in pairs to help each other target specific enemy units. When they do so, one unit is the observer unit and the other is their guided unit. The enemy they are targeting is called the spotted unit. That spotted unit needs to be visible to the observer and the guided unit. And until the end of the phase, each time a model in the guided unit makes an attack that targets that spotted unit, improve the ballistic skill of that attack by 1, and if that observer unit has the marker-like keyword, that attack has the ignores cover ability. Also, each time a model in a guided unit makes an attack that does not target that spotted unit, worsen the ballistic skill characteristic of that attack by 1. So if your guided unit does not shoot into the spotted unit, they will have -1 to their attack. It does seem a little complicated, but once you get playing, it's not so bad. And you can't double up on these. You can't guide and then be observer. You can only be one or the other. Then we have our Retaliation Cadre Detachment Rule, Bonded Heroes. Each time a Tau Empire battlesuit model from your army makes a ranged attack that targets a unit within 12 inches, improve the strength characteristic of that attack by 1. And if that attack targets a unit within 6 inches, improve the armor penetration of that characteristic by 1 as well. An extra strength and AP may not seem like much, but a lot of the Tau weapons sit on breakpoints. The fusion blasters going from strength 9 to strength 10 and AP 4 to AP 5 is a huge boost into those toughness 10 vehicles and monsters. Our small arms fire becomes medium arms fire. That extra AP really makes a difference on a lot of these weapon profiles. Let's move on to the enhancements and the stratagems of the Retaliation Cadre Detachment. The first enhancement is a Puretide Engram Neural Chip for 25 points. Each time you target the bear's unit with a stratagem, roll 1d6. On a 4+, you gain 1 CP. And this is one of the weaker enhancements in the Codex for 25 points. That's just too expensive for a 50-50 chance to get a CP back. Next up is Internal Grenade Racks for 20 points. The Tau Empire battlesuit only. The bear gains that grenade keyword, and each time the bear ends a normal move, it can select one enemy unit that it had moved over during that move. If you do so, roll 6d6, and each 4+ that enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. I like this enhancement. We can do a normal move over a target, then we use the grenade stratagem for 1 CP to get an average of 6 mortal wounds. It's not a lot, but it can help some, and it can spike to do even more, but it's not something I really want to build into. If I have the extra 20 points, I'll put those on a commander or something like that. Then we have Starflare Ignition System for 20 points, Tau Empire battlesuit model only once again. At the end of your opponent's turn, if the bear's unit is not within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units, you can remove that unit from the battlefield and place it in strategic reserves. This is my favorite enhancement in the detachment, if not the Codex. It gives us an uppy-downy unit, and then we can combine it with a particular stratagem to create some real havoc into the enemy. There's a lot of things you can do with this enhancement, especially if you combine it with some stratagems. It's a lot of fun. I always try to take this one because it's a really good enhancement for scoring points and just getting some shot angles onto some elusive targets. Last enhancement is the Prototype Weapon System for 15 points. Tau Empire battlesuit model only. Each time the bearer is selected to shoot, select either lethal hits or sustained hits 1. Until those attacks are resolved, ranged weapons equipped by the bearer have the selected ability. I do like putting this on a commander with a whole bunch of burst cannons to give us a better chance to get those sustained hits 1 or lethal hits. And those are enhancements. Let's move on to the stratagems. The first of the Retaliation Cadre stratagems is the failsafe detonator for 2 CP in Epic Deed. Any phase just after Tau Empire battlesuit model from your army is destroyed, before removing that model from play, if it has a deadly demise ability, do not roll for that ability. Instead, you can choose whether the result is a 1 or a 6, so you can either auto-explode it or decide not to explode it. If the model does not have that deadly demise ability, roll 1d6 for each unit within 6 inches of it, and on a 4+, that unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. And this is the worst stratagem in the detachment in my opinion. For 2 CP to auto-explode is just too expensive. It can be used to kill an important target the rare time or two, but right now, 2 CP is too expensive. There's much better ways to spend 2 CP in this detachment, and even so, there's not a lot of big D6 plus anything explosions. There's mostly you're going to try to maybe use this on a Riptide, but a lot of the times, like I said, 2 CP, it's just not worth it. Next up is the Grab Inhibitor Field for 1 CP, a strategic ploy. Your opponent's charge phase just after an enemy unit has declared a charge, and that enemy unit must immediately take a Battle Shock test. And then you must roll 1d6 for each model in that unit. For each 6, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. And this is another stratagem that we just won't use that often. Into a big horde unit, it could be useful because you're going to be rolling a big handful of dice. Even then, we still need to roll a 6 to get 1 mortal wound, and it really does not equate to a lot of mortal wounds. The Battle Shock test could be useful if the enemy is relying on using some stratagems on their unit when they charge into you, but other than that, it's just not a stratagem that we're going to use a lot. Next up, Stim Injectors for 1 CP, a War Gear stratagem, in your opponent's shooting or the fight phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets, and until the end of the phase, models in your unit have a 6-up Feel No Pain. It is only a 6-up Feel No Pain, but most of our battlesuits have a medium to large amount of wounds, and that 6-up Feel No Pain, it really does make a difference with those big damage attacks incoming on our battlesuits. And we can use this in the shooting or the fight phase, and it gives us a survivability option from shooting and melee attacks. It's only 1 CP, so this will be one of our more used stratagems in the game. You're going to be using this almost every turn just to mitigate a little bit of incoming damage. It's a good stratagem, 6-up Feel No Pain. It may not seem like a lot, but it really does help neuter a little bit of damage coming in. Then we have the Orocon protocol. Sorry if I butchered that. 1 CP battle tactic. In your shooting phase, until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes an attack that targets a unit that contains 6 or more models, that attack has the Sustain Hits 1 ability. And if that attack targets an enemy that contains more than 11 models, you get that Sustain 2 Hits ability. And I like this stratagem, but it really depends on the opponent's list. If they have big units of 10 plus units, we are happy Tau. If it's a bunch of 5 models or less units, we are sad Tau. And this stratagem used on a Commander Bullets profile with a whole bunch of burst cannons with a unit of Star Scythe battlesuits for more burst cannon bullet rain, you can do some good damage into some horde units. But like I said, it really depends on the opponent's list. The next 2 stratagems are the strongest ones. The first one is Shortened Blade for 2 CP, a strategic ploy. In your movement phase, a unit arriving from the Deep Strike ability this phase, your unit can be set up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 3 inches horizontally away from enemy models. So this is 3-inch Deep Strike. And the restriction, like always with these, you cannot charge after you've used this. This is the stratagem that you combine with that Starflare Ignition System enhancement to do some really tricksy things. So what you do is you pick the Starflare Ignition System unit up at the end of the opponent's turn, and then in our next turn, you use this stratagem to drop down within 3 inches of enemy models to deal out some damage to key enemy units. It's really great for stealing objectives, especially the enemy home objective. 2 CP is expensive, but unlike the other 2 CP stratagem, the Auto Explode, this is worth the 2 CP. And Commander Farsight can reduce the cost of this stratagem by 1 as well, so that is why I like to have him in a lot of my lists, especially in the Retaliation Cadre detachment. And this is also great for getting some angles onto some units that might be hiding all game. Maybe they have marked for death. You can drop down within 3 inches and get some shot lines into some enemy units that might have been hiding where otherwise you couldn't get at them. Last up is the Torchstar Gambit for 1 CP. In your shooting phase, 1 Tau Empire unit from your army that can fly, whose attacks have been resolved already. If your unit is not within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units, you can make a normal move. If it does, your unit cannot declare a charge this turn, which as Tau, not being able to charge isn't really a bad thing. For 1 CP, this is the best stratagem in the detachment, It's a normal move, not D6 or up to 6 inches, nothing like that. It is a normal move. So if you're running with the Cold Star Commander with some battlesuits, that's a 12-inch move. This makes the stratagem much more reliable. You move out, lay down some fire, and then for 1 CP, you move back behind some line of sight terrain. We can even shoot and then move on to an objective or an area of the board to complete a secondary. You don't always need to use this to shoot and then go back behind cover. You actually shoot and use this to get some better positioning for later turns. And like I said, these are the 2 best stratagems in the detachment. They're really good for getting some extra movement and doing some tricksy things in our turn. So these are the 4 enhancements and the 6 stratagems for the Retaliation Cadre. So let's move on to some top units for the Retaliation Cadre. Now let's go through some of the top characters for the Retaliation Cadre. We have 3 characters here. The first one is Commander Shadowsun. She does have a 6-inch aura of CP regen when you use a stratagem, and a 5+ you can get that CP back. She also has a 6-inch reroll hits of 1 aura, so she's great from your backlines for helping those broadsides, hammerheads, or anything like that. And she is also lone op. Commander Farsight, he can reduce a stratagem by 1 CP once per battle round. He also has +1 to the wound for his unit if you are within 9 inches of your target, and he is the best and only melee tile model in our codex. The last character is a commander in Cold Star. He gives the attached unit a movement of 12 and gives that attachment assault as well. It's a great model to put some of these enhancements on. Now let's go on to some of the actual units that aren't characters. The first one is obviously Crisis Suits. All 3 variants have their place. The Sunforged with that D6 melt to 2 damage are great for anti-vehicle, and they're quite cheap for what they do. The next up is Stealth Suits. They have that infiltrate ability, and when spotting, the guided unit can reroll the hits and wounds of 1. They do have a free rapid ingress to other units in your army ability, but you have to drop them within 3 inches of your Stealth Suits to use this. Next up is our Riptide Battlesuit. One of the few tough units in our codex, 14 wounds in a 4-up invulnerable save and a base 2-up save. It's a great frontline unit, and the Riptide is more of an anti-infantry platform. It doesn't have a lot of high strength weapons, but it's good for getting rid of light to medium infantry. Next up is the Ghost Keel Battlesuit. It has the infiltrate ability. It can be tough to kill. It has 2 drones that can zero out an allocated wound. You have to use this before you roll for the wounds, but you can still use this against maybe some las cannons or just to help zero out a little extra damage. And can also fall back and shoot if you choose to equip that war gear option. Our last 2 units, we have the Broadside Battlesuit. This is our anti-tank battlesuit, and it can be hard to kill with toughness 6, a 2-up save, and 8 wounds. You can make that 9 wounds with the shield drone. The rail rifles have the heavy ability, so when guided and they have not moved this turn, they can be hitting on a 2+. Finally, we have the Piranha. It's not a battlesuit unit, but that 9-inch scout ability and the cheap unit cost makes these great for secondary scoring and board control. You can equip 2 Seeker missiles on these, so you can get a little bit of anti-tank out of them. They also have an ability that you cause a battle shock test to an enemy within 12 inches after moving the Piranha. So it's a great little unit. Right now, it's currently at 60 points. It could go up in the data slate. It's a great little unit right now. So that's our units. Let's move on to the list I've built. And here is my Retaliation Cadre list. It comes to 2,000 points. I've named this one the Battlesuit Blitz. And for most of these guys, I have a gun drone and a shield drone. If not, I'll have a marker drone on the list here, just to let you know I've changed the gun drone for a marker drone, because I am going to have a shield drone whenever possible. For our Warlord, we have Commander Shadowsun. And characters, we have Commander Farsight, Commander in Cold Star with 3 fusion blasters and a shield generator, an Enforcer Commander with 4 of the burst cannons, and the Starflare ignition system enhancement. For our other datasheets, we have a unit of Star Scythe battlesuits. All of them have the burst cannons, and there's a marker drone in there. We have 2 units of 3 Sunforged battlesuits, all of them with the fusion blasters, and 1 marker drone in each of those units as well, just so I can advance and spot if I need to. We have a Ghost Keel battlesuit with the Cyclic Iron Raker, Twin Fusion Blaster, and the battlesuit support system. We have 2 Riptides. One of them has the heavy burst cannon with the twin smart missiles, and the other one has the ion accelerator with the twin plasma rifle. 3 units of 3 battlesuits. Each unit has a fusion blaster, a marker drone, and a shield drone in the unit. 2 units of 2 broadside battlesuits. The first unit has the heavy rail rifles and the twin plasma rifles. The second unit has the heavy rail rifles in the twin smart missile system. Finally, we have 2 units of 1 Piranhas. They have the twin pulse carbines and 2 Seeker missiles each. And that is a list. It comes to 2,000 points. the Battlesuit Blitz. I am going to play this one on the channel soon, as long as it doesn't get too many changes from the data slate. Now for the final thoughts. This detachment is one of the reasons I wanted to play the Tau as a shooting faction on the channel. There's not a lot of pure shooting factions. Now that I have the Adeptus Custodes and the Tau Empire, I now have two of the factions that tend to get some of the hate. I like my battlesuits, so this detachment brought me to the Tau Empire. We will cover the other detachments as well. I have no Kroot right now, so it might be a little bit before we can get enough to field the Kroot detachment, but I'll slowly get some Kroot. I like the mobility of the army. The detachment has some hard-hitting ranged attacks if we set up the right plays. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe for weekly battle reports, list videos, boarding actions, and other Warhammer 40K content. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by.